All right, Groves. Well, welcome to week 7. I hope you've been hanging in there through Ecclesiastes and really diving into and exploring kind of all this wisdom that Solomon has gained at the end of his life as he looks back. And hopefully we can apply that to our today, knowing kind of where this end all goes to and where the future goes. And so today we're going to be talking about something maybe a little bit unusual. We'll see how the discussion goes in each grove. But you already kind of unpacked a little bit in your discussion questions, unless your facilitator went rogue. But hopefully you kind of shared what are some of your like murder mysteries, your favorite TV shows, your books, kind of some of those just unknown, unsolved things in this world that you just kind of scratch your head at and ponder. And if you really could understand, you would love to know. And for me, one of my favorite shows for a long stretch there was CSI. Not because it was kind of dark, but just because it was the idea of you kind of trying to figure out all the puzzles and the clues and trying to figure out, the whodunit. Probably one of my favorite movies for me was recently, if you guys saw Knives Out, that one I just thought was brilliant. And just kind of the fun, just trying to figure out, okay, well, which of these people is guilty, which one did it, and trying to get to the bottom of the story. And so as we kind of talk today, I kind of wanted to get you kind of moving in that direction, because we're going to be talking a little bit about mystery when it comes to our faith, when it comes to God, when it comes to being able to understand all these things. In Ecclesiastes, Solomon, again, he pursued knowledge, he pursued wisdom, he pursued to kind of just know everything. And at the end of it, he did kind of scratch his head at some things and just say, I don't know what to tell you, but you can search and you can search and you search, but certain things you're just not going to be able to find. And actually want to tie this a little bit into Titus, our new series on Sunday mornings, because there's actually this passage in Titus that ties into it. I want to read it to you and then let you guys explore some of the similar thoughts, I guess, if you will, that are in Ecclesiastes. So at the tail end of Titus, as Paul is speaking to his protege, his mentor, this guy he's entrusted with kind of oversight over the churches on the island of Crete, he shares this. He says in chapter 3, verse 9, he says, "But avoid." Okay, just kind of steer clear of these things, avoid these things. Avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless. And it seems kind of like a strange thing, but he's just trying to list off all these things. Like on this island, amongst these different churches, amongst the believers, they're having all these arguments and discussions and debates over some of these things, the kind of nitpicky things, if you will. And they're dividing over these things. People are getting angry over these things. And he's just saying, you know what? Avoid these kinds of things. And I think it's kind of smart wisdom that Paul's giving Titus, because he's saying, look, there's going to be some stuff when it comes to your faith, when it comes to understanding the law, when it comes to understanding scripture, when it comes to understanding kind of these greater things that may be beyond your ability to really find an answer. And so if you just fight over these things nonstop, it's like it's useless. It's not going to get you anywhere. Like it's unprofitable. There's no profit to it. There's no purpose to it. You're not going to get to the end of it. And so just acknowledge that there's going to be some mystery and some things that are unexplainable. And so I think this is good wisdom that Paul shares with Titus to share with these churches, these young churches, these young believers. And it's also true of us. And so as you're, I think in the church, there's all kinds of things that we could argue, but we don't really know the answers to. I just think of some of the silly ones that working in youth ministry that we would just kind of throw out there and, get everybody mad at each other. Stuff like, did Adam have a belly button? You know what I mean? It's like, did Adam have a belly button or did he not? I mean, you could talk and talk and talk and talk, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, even some bigger things, maybe I just had a conversation with somebody recently, I don't remember who it was, but kind of this whole question of young earth or old earth and all this kind of, like, at the end of it, you can argue and you can argue and argue, and then at the end of the day, it's like, it's like, there's just some stuff to our faith that is a little bit of a mystery, and that we're not going to be able to solve or get the answers to, maybe under the sun on this side of heaven. So I kind of want you to unpack some of these passages as we look in Ecclesiastes, because Solomon, like Paul, he's got some wisdom. He's near the end of his life, and he's looking back, and he's kind of going like, okay, people, just kind of think about this stuff, but maybe you don't need to think about it too much. And so I want you to talk about this, because I think there's this line maybe of when does it become like inappropriate or unprofitable, and what's the other word he used? Useless. And when is it useful and profitable, but when does it cross over that line? So I'm hoping that today, as we kind of unpack that with Ecclesiastes and the wisdom of Solomon, we'll be able to get some wisdom for ourselves for today when it comes to some of these foolish controversies, genealogies, arguments, quarrels, things that we debate about, and maybe how we can approach those things with a little bit of wisdom and maybe even a little bit of humility, and acknowledging that, sometimes it's just going to be, we don't always going to know. So, and I don't know if that makes you uncomfortable or if that kind of gives you a little bit of peace. And so that's what I want us to discuss today. Hopefully this will get you moving in the right direction, and we will check back in with you next week.